Brian, I'm sure you're, of course, I'm sure you're well aware of attachment theory
Yeah.
in human relationships, and and it's one thing I hold on to, but it's something I'm still trying to figure out in my spirituality, as even my own understanding of what we would call in theology classical theism, as a perspective of God is changing. um I sort of want to end with how we began, that as this whole thing shifts, Brian, I still hold on to that love is the central energy of my Christianity. I still think, back to Richard Rohr, if everything belongs. I'm also a believer that if you want to listen to the real theologians today, listen to quantum physicists and molecular biologists. Now you'll see the real theologians of today, that everything is related, everything, that whether we call love belonging, whether we call love the naked now, whether we call love that everything relates to each other. If something on a quantum level happens in Yakima, Washington, it's still felt in Trenton, New Jersey. Um, so how do you, somebody that's experienced a major theological shift, and yet I think has said, I have stayed Christian, doesn't mean you're not pluralistic towards others. Uh, how do you relate to God? Is Christ still personal? Has it shift? Is it one day one thing? How does that? Are you attached to
Yeah.
this personal God who
Yeah.
walks with me and talks with me?
So, David, this is such an important question, and you're framing it so well. And I want to try to honor the question. But I should tell you, this is something that I someday hope I'll be ready to write about, and I don't feel ready to write about it. So let me try to say a few things about it, knowing that you know, it's very hard to put into words. Um, so I think what we have inherited is two main categories. One category is of a personal God who is a monarch and a patriarch, and the other is an impersonal universe where we can't quite figure out if there ultimately is any such thing as a person, because in that universe, life and consciousness seem to be able to be reduced to physics and chemistry. And when we're given those, if I'm given those two choices, uh, I mean, would find it very, very hard to choose between those two. And if people, I watch some people who are so disgusted with the patriarchal, personal monarch controlling, dominating God that they just say, that's causing so much trouble. I'm done with it. And they're so relieved. They might be relieved for 20 or 30 years and then they die. And so the rest of their life, they're okay having let it go because the relief is so great. But I'm someone who had doubts about God from my youngest years. And I think I take seriously that idea of an inanimate universe in which there's no room for, in which what we call consciousness and love and personhood is an anomaly that really can't be explained and ultimately gets reduced to physics, chemistry, electricity. I think there is a third option between those two. And
Mm.
that third option honors and takes seriously the presence of life, the reality of life, and the reality of personhood. And what it does is it takes this sort of two-tiered supernatural universe on the one side and this one-tiered reduced naturalistic universe on the other side and says neither of those work. I think there's one universe and it contains love and personhood and attachment and all of that it's there. And so I maybe I'll say one other thing and then feel free to either we could end it there if you want to ask something else, but because I want to be honest about this, and I don't know if I put this into words so well, but where I find myself now, this is why I still call myself a Christian. One of the reasons I still call myself a Christian is because I see something of that fusion in Jesus, and it makes me love Jesus. I love Jesus. I'm attracted to Jesus. I don't have a problem saying that. And by the way, I love the Buddha. I don't know as much about the Buddha, but I love the Buddha. And, I don't agree with 100% of everything Muhammad said, but when I understand Muhammad in his context, I love him. But my soul, my sort of first love is Jesus. And that's, I think, I'm good with that. I have no reason ever to step away from that. In fact, the irony is the deeper I go in that, the more I love Jesus. And when I speak of God, for me, I start with the revelation of personhood and kindness and mercy that I see in Jesus. So that's her. But the interesting thing is, it doesn't stop there. So for the last few months, I have this red-shouldered hawk he was just a young hawk, a freshly fledged hawk, and he didn't know enough to be afraid of me. So he would sit in my backyard and I'd walk out, and he was sort of uncoordinated and gangly, but he liked to sit in my yard because he can catch lizards, and he pounces down off the fence and catches lizards, and I'd see him eating, different things he catches in my yard. And so every time I'd see him, I would just be quiet, not bother him, sort of keep my distance, but I would actually talk to him, just to try to make sure he was listening to me. Obviously, I don't think he understands English, but I think he has ears. And so I had his attention. And what I did is, through my actions, I tried to communicate to him, I'm another living being, and I'm not going to eat you. And we can be around each other. And when and now months and months later, he's much bigger and he's not afraid of me. And I don't get too close to him, he'd fly away, but we have this distance of respect. And when I'm in his presence, I feel I'm loving God. I'm loving God expressed. In the book of Genesis, it says the breath of life goes into every living creature. And it's not like I really love God when I'm in church, and then I sort of love God. No, I really love God when I'm in church, and I really love God when I'm with this red-shouldered hawk, and the trees and the plants and the stars and air itself, which is just amazing. And so my attachment, that personal attachment, feels, I don't know, that's the best I can do to explain it.
Oh, so good.
I hope that's helpful.
Brian, a couple, my wife and I are one of our best couple friends are co-rabbis at a local synagogue. And they are truly some of our best and safest friends. And I'm so glad that my 1980s and 1990 days aren't here anymore, that I have to convert my Jewish rabbi friends. I'll tell you one anecdote about this. My first copy of Do I Stay Christian, they were in my little office just off our sanctuary, and they were speaking at our church. And I stepped out and came back in, and Lori, one of the rabbis, had pulled down your book. And in the hour before the service, she had read a significant part of it. And she goes, "I'm loving this book." And I said, "Well, take it, just take it. I'll get another copy." And so I just wanted to let you know that she was loving your book. But my friend, Rabbi Flip, his name's Philip, and he goes by Flip. And it's the similar thing when we're having breakfast and he's explaining Judaism he's a Reformed Jew. When he's explaining Reformed Judaism to me, or his Jewish life, I walk away going, it helps me to love and attach to Jesus more.
Yes, yes,
And
yes,
then when
yes.
he asks me questions about the New Testament and Jesus, and he knows about my whole shift. When I explain New Testament Christianity, of course, from my perspective, he'll tell me it takes him deeper into his Judaism. I'm not trying to make him a Christian. He's not trying
Yes.
to make me a Jew. We're just two souls that are attaching to God through this mystery that is our constructs, is our time and place in history, is and what is comfortable to us. And I kind of sound savvy, but it's just a beautiful, beautiful thing, right?
Yeah, yeah. And everything I know about Jesus says that Jesus would be going, that's the whole point. That's the whole point. And I have a feeling that, a whole lot of other people that would be saying the same thing. So, and that's when you describe that, it makes me feel that's why this work is worth doing. And that's why networks like this network that you're helping and part of are so important, because as other people reject us and say, if you want to go in that direction, then you are out as far as we're concerned. Then, well, we got to find some other people who know how sweet and good and important this is and want to go there with us, not to hate all those other people, but to love them and say, I understand why they feel that way. I used to feel that way too. And, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they do. And then to say, but look, I need some friends, and let me find those friends wherever I can. Yeah.